Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Basking in the Evergreen. Um, we are Davidless today because, well, a lot of you know that he just launched at Eternity's Gates, and it brought a storm uh, to his doorstep where he is in Galway, Ireland, and he has no power at present. So he may pop in and surprise us later on, but for now, it's Basking in the Nikki. And the Joe and the Josh.
Hi.
So lots of firsts this week in that way because we had such a positive show. Last time instead of focusing on the pet peeves, it was more like what do we love about being indies, and now, here I am, doing this solo. So anyway, we should all give it a big huzzah for David completing his series.
Yay, David.
Final Fantasy Victory Dance. Da-na-na-na-na.
Yep. Dun, 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 dun.
Na-na-na-na. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's out now. The series is complete. Go support him, buy it, tell your friends, blow it up because it's fantastic. I helped with the alpha reading and some editing stuff behind the scenes, and it's gone in such a great direction that I think is really satisfying and full of hope. We were talking behind the scenes about finding that light. So
Mhm.
and it goes with that theme of what we indies need to keep that north star of where
Oh,
we're
yeah.
going, because it is such an uphill journey, but one of love. So I know that there's usually stuff that David will say at the intro that this was sort of last minute. So there you go. So you send a star to let our hosts and producers know about how much you appreciate what they do at Go Indie Now. And every time you contribute, you get entered to a season prize or a package drawing and gift cards, swag, more. Puts a smile on Joe's face, puts a smile on my face, and on Josh's face, and David, wherever he is, cowering from the elements.
David just doesn't want to see him wants to see him dance on the air. That's what it is, right? Every time a star happens, David dances.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, the little da 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 da.
Yes. So, yeah, click that like button, subscribe, all of that happy stuff, and we will get into the show. Like I said before, we had kind of a positive focus for this show, and I was wondering, Joe, is this something that you're thinking of doing as a shift? Like maybe season 2 goes into the positives rather than the pet peeves?
I don't know. I don't know. Gearing up for who's going to be on the rest of the season. I don't know if that's the case, but I
Give
think
them a challenge.
Yeah, I think Josh and I just wanted to show them it can be done.
Yeah. I call myself an optimist by default. I have no use for cynicism, and I don't know what real is, so I have to be an optimist.
So you have to live in fantasy.
I don't think anyone knows. I like the real world. I don't know what that actually is. It's bigger than I am. So I can only go what I see about it, and I know I make shit up as I go. I write, so So if I would rather be happy about the world than beaten up by it. I mean, it's what we make of it.
I like that mindset.
Yeah.
And it sometimes can get hard with all the things that we have going on in our lives to stay focused on that passion, and make sure that we can bring it out into the world, whether it's writing, a book or a screenplay or, movies, whatever it might be, knitting, crocheting. We need that fire can't go out, and it's sort of like it's birthing a child. There's a lot that goes into it and years that might go into raising it up to be its full potential, and you just kind of have to one foot in front of the other, right?
Well, So no, I'm gonna say it like this because I've been diligently pursuing the freelance path, most of the way through this. One of the hardest things, the difference between me in year one versus now is completely the mindset. That is the hardest thing about this, like this, is you have to have the courage to say that my stuff is worth something. And people will say what they want about money, good, bad, or indifferent, right? This goes back a little bit to the ego thing I was talking last week, a little bit of ego, a little bit of self-belief. You have to have it, because what happens is you will attract people. When first year I did freelancing, I was worried about screwing it up. And I did not make a lot of money as a freelancer as a result. It's only when I made the decisions like, I'm going to make this work. I don't care about the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights. I'm going to make this work.
When you ran out of fucks to give?
More than that. It's not, that's not enough. Like, you legitimately have to have a belief in, I'm going to do this. If you don't have it, you won't get far. Now, again, I'm still not quite at a living wage as a freelancer, but I've gotten closer and closer and closer and closer each and every. As the years have progressed, I have made more and more money every year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just me with my big mouth putting myself out there. And if I didn't have the confidence I had, I wouldn't do it. And right. And that is such, like, I think one of the hardest things in indie, especially indie authors, because indie authors especially at first, feel the most alone. Because again, you're not looking for a publisher. You don't have anybody telling you your stuff is good.
Unless you have a writing group.
Even that, it's one thing to have a group. It's another thing to see a result. Mm-hmm. That's the hardest thing about being an indie. I honestly think that's truly the hard thing. But if you can find that faith in, like this, again, it sounds so corny, I get it. But if you find that faith in yourself, if you really, really do, you can actually you can make more money than you ever thought possible, right? At the same time, you'll have that confidence in yourself. And even if it's not coming and going the way you want it to at this moment in time, the way like perfectly, you'll still find people drawn to you, people working with you, people want to be with you. And that's, in the long run, right? That's the slow part of the game. It goes slow, and then one day it just comes at you like a hurricane, and you don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. See, that's what's happening to David right now.
Yes. Yes. David, if you're listening to this.
He's not in a hurricane.
I hope you're not in a hurricane, Dave, but if you are in a hurricane, listen, there's only one thing you can do, and that's just dance. Just might as well just enjoy the storm while it's there, man.
As you guys are going off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So have you found that too, Joe?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think like attracts like, for sure. And I think that
we're all frequencies, right? And we can choose to change them with our thoughts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, I went through a personal transition over the last 3 years where, my world got a little bit rocked, and I had to change everything. And doing that was the hardest part for me, because you get so used to being who you are, even if it's changed who you want to be, if that makes sense. But I really had to find me again. And so during that journey, that was, as Josh will tell you, because Josh and I had many conversations about this over the time period that I was dealing with this. But, ultimately what happens is that you kind of either adapt and overcome, change for necessity purposes, or you change because you want to change. But I think wanting to change is a much better approach, because I think, like Josh said, you attract what you want at that point, instead of attracting what is going to come to you if you just naturally change, or have changed, not accept the change that you wanted to go for. You just change because everybody changes. Everything happens to people and they change. But if you seek it out and you try to figure out what it is you want, and change that, then I think you are going to be so much better off in the long run. And I think it's a hard thing to do. It's very hard to kind of shift almost 360, in a lot of ways. That's what I had to do. And in doing that, it just, everything changed for me in that. And I just am so grateful for that, because I think it's an amazing, amazing thing. So,
Yeah, having to figure out that reason, getting back to the ego thing a little bit, but is that inner heart of knowing what it is that you want versus like the expectations that maybe society's put on you, or, that you just kind of
I think
gotten
too.
growing up.
Yeah, I think too, though. I think you want something, but maybe it's not the thing that you're going to get. And I think that in doing that, it's starting with what you want, and then going for it, putting yourself out there, you're going to find that, and Josh could probably speak to this, that you're going to discover what is really truly the thing. And it's not always what you think it's going to be. It's not what you expect it to be. It's not the way you expect it to happen. And that journey can be just as rewarding. In fact, probably more rewarding for it. At least it has been for me. And so I've kind of felt like I know where I am now and who I am a little bit more than I did when I was just taking this journey to do it, So.
I said this. I have 12 rules to success. The 9th rule is detach from all outcomes. That is much harder than it sounds.
Yeah, that's some Zen
Because,
stuff.
the thing is, we struggle. Okay, all of us, like whatever, like we agree on 90% of the things, probably about 90% of the things we talk about. 10% of the things we probably don't, right? The important thing is I have an idea of how the world works. That's why I said I don't know how real the world actually is. I don't actually know if this is true, but this is what I believe. And there's a difference. But because I know that, if someone comes out with me with something different, I can at least listen. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. And that doesn't just apply to ideas. That applies with your expectations in this life, whatever they may be. Going with what Joe's saying, I have, like, my entire career, like, folks, my podcast was not the plan. It legitimately was not the plan. Here's what happened. I interviewed an author by the name of Rob Sawyer for my website, and he comes out of the door and says podcast, and just something clicks. This was not a plan at all. 1,000.
Josh had an unplanned pregnancy.
My whole career, my entire career has been a giant accident. I'm good with that. But and honestly, no joke, I accidentally got traditionally published. I accidentally got a podcast. I let one thing lead me to the next and the next and next thing.
Follow your joy, right?
But
Follow your bliss.
Not just that. I have a goal to make myself a sustained living doing this, and I'm very close to that goal. That all said, I have adjusted the idea. When I started, I wanted to be like Robert Jordan, like be a tour superstar, like one of those big tour authors, right? That's what I wanted. Like seriously, that was how I wanted. That was the initial vision, mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. That's not how it worked out. The difference, but the thing is, I was never really affronted by that idea, because my career went down the arc. It went down on its own.
Yes, you were not Robert Jordan. You were Joshua Pantalleresco.
Exactly. Exactly. But also, I was wise enough to go with it. A lot of my career, some of the best things that have happened to me have happened just in the act of me doing things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the result I expected, but everything leads somewhere. But that's the thing. I'm so detached from the idea of a final grand. Again, I have goals. I'm not saying that, but I'm so detached from one action leading to the perfect outcome that I'm allowed to see opportunities I wouldn't if I was just attached to an idea And that's the point I'm trying to make. You have to
Mm.
let go of sometimes a bit of your ideas of what to expect on the journey, and let yourself actually go on the journey.
Yeah, be changeable.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. You can see that.
It's led to Josh
Freedom.
doing 1,000 episodes, and to me doing 1,000 episodes. So there you go.
Hmm.
Woohoo!
Dropping some wisdom bombs here.
I don't know about
I don't
that,
know
but we're dropping something.
dropping
Yes.
I don't know if I would call it wisdom per se. Just
I always say I say I get older, I put wiser with a question mark. There are some
yeah.
there's some days I wonder. Some days I legitimately wonder.
And then I see kids that were my the age that I kind of determined then when I wanted to do this, and look at them and look at me here now, and I go, am I really that much smarter? Am I really that much wiser? I know.
Sometimes they're smarter than us, Joe. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like you see it, you're like, oh
Yeah, that's the brutal part, right?
yeah. That's how it should be, though. That is
Yeah,
how
it
should
is.
be.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, how do you guys feel about the decision to, make this a tie to go against the grain? That this does seem to be like this theme of change, right? Trying new things out, going with the flow. Like before before we got on here, we're like, well, are we going to do it? What are we going to do? Just let's go.
Yeah.
you know.
This is totally in my comfort zone. I like
Yeah,
honestly,
right.
I came in with no expectations. I really did, and I just like about some topics we're gonna have. I had not met David. I had never met him before, so this was I was a first. It's like I'm just gonna go on the show and see what happens. Joe was nice enough to invite me, so here we were, and
You are usually where you need to be at the time that you need to be there, whether you realize it or not, right?
mm-hmm.
Mm. So here we've been having these discussions, and I think they're probably timely for us three and anybody listening too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I joked that. I joked with David off the air that I'm just glad to get this out of the way, so now people can stop asking me when I'm going to be actually on the show.
do you think
Do it. And but honestly, it was my decision to do this, and then I asked Josh if he'd be willing to do it because I wanted to celebrate the 2 milestones of, well, actually 3 milestones with David's book being finished too. But it was kind of kismet in that respect, and also because we didn't have any guests for this month, and I wanted to make sure that the show was going to happen. So I thought it was a better time there's no better time than the present to jump in and do it. So, I'm a big admirer of what David and you have done here, Nikki, and created, and it's really something special. So I wanted to covet that and respect it. But, as far as the decision goes, it is what it is. That's David's decision. It's if he's comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it, and that's all that matters.
I got to come back twice. Yay!
You would have been back here anyway, but you would only have been talking to one or the other. But yeah.
It would have been. I would have been fine either way. Honestly,
Yeah.
like I have an ego, but not for this. I have no problem getting my butt handed to me. It's all good. I can't hear.
Yeah, you're. I don't hear you at all, Nikki. No.
No. It might be the connection. Like it happened with me last week.
It's the show. The show's determined to knock people out.
That's right. It's all good. It's all good. Nikki, don't just. It's okay.
Yeah, come.
Nikki, what I did. This is what I did. I'll just tell you what I did to get out and in. I disconnected my connection and reconnected my connection. Yeah, that's what I did. It took me a couple tries, but I did it. Yeah, okay. It's all good.
Oh, let me fix.
Oh, we can just talk, hey man. Listen, this is always the secret. One of the secrets of my show is I always allowed for chaos.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's it. Nikki will find her way back in, and I'm sure she'll be good.
It's funny. We've now destroyed 2 hosts.
Yes. Yes.
The guests take over. You damn right.
Yeah, that's right, Anita. That's right. Oh man,
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Well, let's make this kind of a little. Oh, there's Nikki again. But my question is.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. You're good.
So I wonder if it's a StreamYard thing.
Could be.
No, it is. Yeah, it is a StreamYard thing.
Mm.
If your connection goes below a certain, if your connection changes, it will knock. It will knock. It knocked me out last week the same way. So it's like that's why I need a solution because I had to figure it out last week. What the hell's going on here? What was your question, Joe?
I was going to ask you what the biggest difference between episode 1 and episode 1000 is for you.
Ooh. Honestly, how comfortable I am. Honestly, it's the biggest difference. Is I said this. I said this on my Facebook. I'll say this here. Like I've been very, very fortunate. I've had hundreds of creative people from all over the world, hundreds, come on my show, and we just talk about anything. Whether it was glitter, whether it was, oh yeah. I had a conversation with JD Estrada about Mike Tyson and what would you rather do, get hit by Mike Tyson or hit by a car? By the way, every guy that asks that question, they go, "How hard is?" No, yeah, every guy would have to take the car in Tyson, right? So
you could figure out how to take the car correctly, if you turn a certain way or Mike Tyson, you can't see that coming.
No, you can't see that coming. You just know it's gonna hurt a lot, right? So, it could be that, or it could be something serious like PTSD and success and self-affirmation. And like, I had a conversation with Marissa Mayer about her siblings. I had a conversation with Rob Sawyer about God. I had a conversation with Spider Robinson about having dinner at the White House. And this is my life.
Yeah.
Yes, Anita.
You get to attract different frequencies, as we were talking about, than you would normally.
Yeah. But I think the amazing thing, like the biggest change for me is how comfortable I am with it. But the biggest thing I've learned is how alike people starting in this journey, like artists do not realize how similar they are. Yeah. Right. And the differences are honestly details. Yeah. Ultimately, their faith in themselves when it comes right down to it. But that's the biggest thing I've learned, honestly.
Yeah, the people at their base are all pretty much the same. We are made of the same primordial soup mix, and
I'm curious what you thought of the decision, Nikki. I was going to ask you that before you dropped out.
Oh, about the decision about the tie. Well, I had actually stepped away for a second and then came back and didn't quite get to put in the comments my reaction, but I like it. I like a little bit of chaos and trying new things. And, we were talking about this before the show about needing to focus because I like it when things are different and change up and,
Sure.
Because then you find that thing, oh, well, I liked this about the format or I didn't like that. And then you can grow and learn and change,
Yeah.
So I thought it was refreshing and was surprised. And equally surprised that you didn't know either, Joe. So
yeah, no, I had no idea.
David's keeping us all on our toes. I think he manifested that storm.
Yeah. So there might be two people where he says, I don't want to talk to either of you.
Yeah,
All right, you both out.
Yeah, maybe this was his plan all along.
Like, yes, that's right. That's right.
He's a
Machinations, you know. So, um, I was flipping through trying to find some weird, different off the wall questions you can ask, right?
Great.
And one of the things I
Right.
always like to ask is about gnomes, because there's a gnome that features a little prominently in my book. And I'm always curious people's reactions to them because it's varied, I'm finding. So, Josh, why don't we start with you?
Okay.
What's your thoughts on gnomes?
It reminds me of a friend of mine. And so when I was living in a town called Snowflake, Arizona, there it does really exist. I shit you not.
That I know of Snowflake. We got to talk more
Yeah,
about that. So go on with the
yeah,
gnomes
yeah.
and then we'll Snowflake.
Okay, so I was up there for a variety of reasons, but I was actually in college up there. And one of my classmates, she's really, honestly, she gave me some of the best advice. When I needed it the most, she gave me some really good advice. And but she would always associate me with. She always had like there was a little joke between us and a gnome, and so whenever I hear gnomes, I think of her. That's what it is for me.
Nice.
It reminds me of a friend.
Okay. See, that's a positive association. Joe, what about you?
I have a similar association actually. So for me, gnomes have popped up into my life in times when are just interesting when I'm thinking about somebody. And it's just interesting that like whenever I'm walking, if I'm walking out and about, right, and then I was just thinking about a person, and a gnome comes like right there on the grass or right in the tree or whatever, wherever gnomes.
Tiptoeing through the grass.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, and it's always interesting that that happens. But for me, gnomes are mostly associated with my friend Jim Nettles, who wrote a book about gnomes, and so when I met him and he told me he wrote a book about gnomes, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And we had this like 2-hour conversation about the philosophy of gnomes and what they represent in certain cultures and how they what they exist for and all this interesting things. And so I always think about that conversation, and most of my deep thoughts or deep conversations somehow, some way, gnomes appear. So
That is really interesting. And then I come into this show and it's a question that I've asked everybody that I've interviewed.
it's awesome.
It's
I
all
love it.
good.
I'll
Yeah.
have to send you a picture that I have that I had made
This
of
had to come from Anita, right?
gnomes make good weapons. Yes, right? They
Yeah.
do.
I'm not. I fear asking about her practical experience about such things. That's the one. That's the one that scares me the most.
Hmm. Well, they do have that
It's
little
like
hole in the bottom that you can like shove explosives into, right?
Mm.
so note to self: never piss off Nikki or Anita or Katie or
Yeah, there's a list.
there's a list.
Just,
See a gnome in my mail. I'll see a gnome in my mailbox. I know this jig is up. That'll be it in the match. Oh no!
once you see the gnome, it's already too late.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Yes.
I try
I
to
know.
keep a respectful relationship with them. Um, you know, I don't have any in my yard. Maybe someday that'll change, but you know, I also like with all the fae, you want to be respectful,
Sure.
acknowledge, go about your business, you know. Otherwise, you get on the gnome radar, and that's where you start hearing these horror stories from people. That's what I think. Or maybe that's just
Okay.
because I'm in the horror mindset. I'm not
No,
sure.
I got some stories.
I can see how people are afraid of that or
Yeah.
have fear behind it, based on it. But
Yeah, it's the inanimate
I
object.
think you're talking
you
to
know.
two guys that have seen so much in our lifetimes that fear doesn't even come into the conversation typically, you know?
Fear, respect, yes. Fear, no.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
there's a difference. Respect,
Big
yes.
time.
I don't want the headache, but I mean fear, no.
Hey, be careful! Be careful saying that. They'll be like, "Oh, you
No,
don't
no,
fear
no,
us,
no,
do
no,
you?"
no, 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 no.
No,
You're
no,
gonna
we
find
respect
yourself in a
you.
David
We
and
respect
Goliath.
it. No.
Or,
No. Respect. There's a lot. See, no. Respect is important. Fear, but respect, no. You respect.
Yeah.
You respect stuff. That always be respectful because you never know.
You're gonna wake up tied down. Gnome standing over you. hmm
If that's how I gotta go, that's how I gotta go.
That's so true.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just gotta
my
accept your
safe word
fate.
pineapple. Just saying.
You know? I'm not
So good.
look, I'm not afraid of that. I don't want that to happen. I'm
Of
happy
all the
that
ways,
I'm happy to let the gnomes do whatever they want to do and be who they want to be and all those things. But and I respect that, and I will tread in their presence in that respect. But hey, if you're gonna come at me, come at me. It's fine. It's going to be what it is.
a healthy respect,
Exactly.
yes.
Yes, healthy respect. Yeah.
So I wanted to get back to Snowflake, Arizona, because I'm actually a little curious.
Okay.
The town hit my radar.
Sure.
I went through some health issues, and it hit my radar
Okay.
because there's a community there that lives without chemicals. Are you familiar with it? I'm just curious.
I
Mhm.
Concho? Concho? Or that feels like it's closer to
The-
Concho than Snowflake.
okay, maybe it was just broadly called Snowflake. I've never been there, but
No. Snowflake is a Mormon community. I found that out on my way there. Actually, that's a story in of itself. I won't name names for a couple of reasons. The end of the story doesn't end very well, but with that particular individual. But I remember going up there, and it was a completely Mormon community, and it was an experience to say the least. I never lived in a place where one denomination was that prevalent before. It was yeah, I wouldn't do that again. No, honestly, it has nothing to do with the people there. It has more to do with the fact that to me, it really doesn't matter what belief system you have. It never should be that uniform ever. It's actually not, I don't honestly think it's that healthy. That's just my opinion.
yeah, some people find real comfort in that structure and that rigidity. You know what I mean? And that's not me either. But
but the
it's
thing is, the side effects of it aren't healthy. Because what happens is in a situation like that, everybody caters to an expectation, right? And that isn't, again, it forces people to hide things, compromise on things, and in the long run, I've seen some of the damage up close and personal. I've heard of stories from people I knew up there, right? It's just, it's not healthy to have it that much. It's good. I'm not saying anything about any like the faith there. I'm just saying, like, strictly speaking, it's good when there's variety. It keeps, there's a certain equilibrium. Like there's, right? Should be secular. There should be Christian, right?
yeah. What is
Right.
what is he going on about religion and belief
Not just
systems?
because when a town is that engrossed in one of those systems, and it can be anything. It could be a secular system too. It could be something like that. But when it's that uniform, it's not healthy. It does things to people, and it's not good. Right?
Yeah, because
Sometimes it's comical. But
you like that South Park episode about the Mormons. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've seen it, right?
yes.
Yeah.
That Dr. Phil. It's my experience up there. That was my experience up there. There's a lot of good people up there though too. I'll say that. Like, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for some of the people there. Like, legit. So I won't say anything bad about the people there. But it definitely once you see it, if you ever live in one of those situations, you'll understand. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people will be secular, and I've noticed that can be its own religion in a way too. Like they'll follow science like it's the God. And one thing that can happen with that is you'll have these scientific journals that basically become Bibles to people, right? And they're like, well, whatever was published in that is the thing. When it's way nuanced as it's always been, right? It's like, well, who's publishing the study? How do they do the study? You know what I mean? Who's funding it? Who funds the whole thing? And so it can get corrupt, is my point. Just as any other religion, I have found to my amusement.
It's remember I said about Rule 9 detaching from all outcomes. That's why. Anyway.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on beliefs, religion, that sort of thing?
Let's not get heavy or anything.
I'm sorry. Am I supposed to keep this? See, these are topics.
No. That's fine. No, your show. I'll follow the rules. I'm gonna go along. I tend to believe what you all believe, and that is that it's a interesting self-discovery. It's an interesting journey to kind of think about and but I like to question, and I've had conversations with priests. I've had conversations with any theological person, scientists. I've had conversations with people that are devout Christian, born again, and I tend to just kind of absorb it all and be open to whatever conversation wants to happen. How I believe and what I believe doesn't really matter, because that person, I'm not going to change that person's mind, and I don't try to do that. I'm open to anything that happens, and all I know is that I'm living right now, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm breathing and doing what I need to do, and I just go with that and keep going as long as I possibly can with that. And then whatever happens after that is out of my control, so I'm going to go with it.
And see, I'm seeing in the comments we've got things like, "Oh, sweating intensifies," and is this Thanksgiving?
It's all good. It's just, it's not something I necessarily jump in with head first, because again, some people get really, really offended by it.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen that. I didn't feel like you guys would.
No.
So that's why I'm like, I personally find it fascinating as a topic, and anything that gives people that hope, as long as it isn't hurting anybody else. There is that caveat, right?
Well, it comes down to one word: respect. Look, I have more of a Christian bent than probably more people realize. I do, but the thing is, I've seen so many people. I've talked to so many people, and again, this is just my own personal belief. As I don't think God cares that much about whether or not someone acknowledges him the way that's described, whether I go to church. There's lots of ways. There's more than one way doing that.
Spirituality, right?
Well, I do think there are standards. Like that's a more nuanced discussion for another show. But even with that, here's the thing. I don't know you. I don't know where you've been. I don't know where you're going. Who am I to judge you? And same with Joe, same with anybody else. I like that the people see things differently than I do. Right? I would be depressed beyond belief if I knew everything already. I would be, honestly, this would not be an energy drink. This would be something else. And I would be very sad, like very, very, very sad. I love the fact that everybody comes into this differently. And again, and to Joe's point, I may not change Joe's mind or your mind or anybody else's mind. We don't need to.
No.
Right? Here's the thing.
Well, it's interesting that you go directly to like that religion has to be a confrontational thing.
Well,
I don't look at it like that at all. It's more like a what keeps you going, your inner lights kind of thing. So I think that's a difference. You know, with Jonathan saying, "Oh, you know, this topic is heavy." I just don't come at it like that. It's more like it should be a beautiful thing. You know, more than like I'm not trying to change anybody's mind on anything.
No,
you know.
no.
I don't know. It's not confrontational for me. It's not that. It's just that I tend to find that people who believe really strongly in one aspect or one thing, they just want it to be a confrontation. They want to push it as a confrontation. So I try to look at it as, look, I don't want to be a confrontation. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, and be open to what that is. Whether I believe it or not, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're trying to convince me of what you believe, you're not going to. It's just not going to happen. You know, I've been through too much and seen too much and know too much for that to be the case. But the one thing I do know is that I learned something new about something that person believes, and I take that knowledge and add that to what I am. And so that's how I look at it. I look at it as adding, not subtracting. And I also look at it as not confrontational. If I come at it confrontational, I would never have a conversation with anybody about anything. So I don't look at it that way. I kind of, I absorb what you have to say. I'm a fairly good listener, so I can, I have work to do on that end as well, and this helps me with that as well. But I just feel like I'm always a work in progress as a person, as a human, and as whatever beyond that becomes. So I look at all of this as the experience I'm supposed to have, and so I just absorb it and enjoy it. And I like hearing what people think, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. That's all. It doesn't have to be confrontational unless people make it that way. And that I think is a very specific type of person.
But I do find that if people have a ingrained belief, like Josh is saying, like if they're like, if that's the only thing they know and that's the only thing they believe, they are a lot more confrontational than they are accepting and pushing. They push a little bit more. And I find that the people that you would expect that from are not the people that give that to you. So like I've had conversations with priests where I couldn't believe that guy was a priest. I was like, what? So it's like, I think the more you educate yourself on everything, the more the conversation's going to be interesting, so.
Yeah. I just want to add one thing to it, and that's this. I think when people just convert, I think this is the other thing. When they start on their walk of faith, whatever that is, they're so convinced it's right? And they're so convinced, and it comes from a healthy place, ironically enough, of like they want everybody to feel what they're feeling. But the truth of the matter is where you're at and where somebody else is at is a very different thing. And as you go down your walk, whatever that is, you realize this. Like some point it just clicks in and that, okay, Nikki DeKeuster, did I get that right?
DeKeuster.
It's DeKeuster.
Okay, Nikki, I don't know why, but it is.
DeKeuster. Yeah. Okay, Nikki DeKeuster. Well, the thing is, you had your own walk, your own journey, you've made your own choices. I pretend to understand them because I've never walked in your shoes. And once you have that realization slip in, right? Once you have that realization, then you start recognizing and realizing that, you know what? This is just my walk, right? That's it. That is legitimately it. And I've talked to practically, much like Joe, I've talked to like everybody, right? All kinds of walks of life. So, That's what I
But-
want.
And
Right?
I'll add to that, and that saying, I will, but whatever your walk of life is and whatever you've been through, I want to hear about it. I would love to
Sure.
hear it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
No, and yeah, and that's because as Joe says, that's the interesting part. But I think one of the biggest journeys.
I think
in
you're gonna
faith
get a goose egg
and-
on this, Jonathan.
Yes.
No, can't say.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but
Josh.
no worries. But I think the thing is, there has to, much like even with politics, it can be politics, it can be something else as well. Is you got to be ready to listen. Like that's what it really comes down to. If you're ready to listen, these conversations can be a lot. They're the most meaningful ones you can have if you're willing to listen. That's the caveat there.
Yeah, we should all be continually growing and changing and evolving, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's get off this heavy topic, and I want to know. I want to know, and this actually can get deep if we wanted it to, but what your favorite or one of your favorites, if you don't like picking a favorite, Batman villain is, because I feel like that says a lot about a person.
Harley Quinn's Bane.
Harley Quinn's Bane.
So
Oh, like the
if you haven't
Bane
seen-
in Harley Quinn's new show.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, he's
That's my favorite.
hilarious.
Yes, he
That
is.
version, that specific version of Bane, not
Yeah,
Tom
yeah.
Hardy's, not animated series.
Well, no. That's the best part. They actually kept the voice from the movie in there. That always cracks me up. But the interesting thing about that is he can still kick Batman's ass. That's the one thing that they kept with him. It's like he's the one guy that can hand Batman his ass, right? And no one respects him. And I laughed so hard about that, right? It's funny, legitimately funny. When Joker steals his food, the kid. My favorite is Todd at the store every time he wants to get a Razzie Zazzy. Like that's my favorite line in the show. The streets will run with Razzie Zazzy. I'm like, oh my god, I lost it. It broke me. It legitimately broke me, right? And in Tom Hardy's voice, it's just like, okay, he's my favorite. He is my absolute favorite. Right? Because and don't get me wrong, I'm someone that's read like a lot of the comics. But the thing is, I don't always. I think it's also where I'm at in my life too. I'm not at that super serious point in my life where things need to be continually perfect. I don't care. I want to enjoy the story I'm reading, or watching, or playing.
Well, you got to be like that with comics because they're all over the place.
Well, it depends. Like you talk to like there's like comic book fans. Some of them are like legit crazy. I passed that point, and I'm saying this as a comic book fan.
I collected Harley Quinn comics for a while, and to stay within the canon was
can't do it. You
can't do it.
It's too much
unless you're like a millionaire and that's your whole full.
No, they can't do it. There's too many contradictions in the continuity. You can't do it. So you find the stories you enjoy. By the way, my favorite Harley Quinn run is Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rossmo. They kicked all kinds of ass. I love that book. But yeah, no, Bane. That's mine. Joe?
Is it too much of a cop out to say Batman's my favorite Batman villain?
No, because he is his own worst enemy.
Yes.
I like that. I like that he's flawed. I like that he runs on anger a lot and adrenaline and kind of despises who he is outside of being Batman in a lot of ways. It doesn't embrace it, and it makes him uncomfortable. I think love makes him uncomfortable. And I just like seeing that human nature of a superhero a lot. And I think it's kind of interesting to me. And so I mean, if I kind of like all the villains equally. I kind of like I like the old school ones, like the Penguin and the Joker and the Riddler. But I think the Joker is a little played because so many people have given it its own different spin. So Penguin and Riddler are probably up there for me. But I just, I think the story works for one reason and one reason only, and that's because it's Batman. And Batman is the true villain in all of this. It's how I feel. Okay, so I have this thing that I believe that Daniel LaRusso is the true villain of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. I believe that he is the reason why all the bad things happen to everybody else. And because he's never accepted the fact that he cannot be the most popular guy. He cannot be the sexiest guy. He cannot be the best lover. He cannot be the best karate guy. And yet he tries to be that every time, and he thinks he is that every time, right? And every time he gets foiled and failed, and he doesn't learn from it, which is kind of interesting to me. He's evolved, but he doesn't really learn from it because he goes right back to who he is, right? So I feel the same way about Batman. I think Batman, every time Batman takes a step forward, he takes 3 steps backwards. And it's very interesting to me because I think that's the kind of stories I like to tell. I like to tell stories about the dichotomy and the idea of that there's 2 sides to every person, so.
Yeah, and how he gets to fight these different versions of himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all his
he's had to evolve.
Yeah.
I see in the comments we've got, I'm not eavesdropping on a therapy session, am I? Yes, you are.
Yeah,
you have
welcome.
both me and Josh.
Yes. Kind of. I don't know if I'm the patient or the therapist. I'm not entirely sure. So,
we can be both. Oftentimes.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
right?
Sure. Yeah, we can share drugs that way. It's good. Anyways,
I guess I'm the notebook.
You're the notebook.
Yes.
I'm just taking the notes.
Yes. And then he also has, what do you think about Rah Rasputin?
Interesting. Actually, I'll give you guys a fun little thing. The book, I submitted a book to an agent. I actually mashed up Percival with Rasputin. I made him an evil genie. So there you go. It's not a Batman villain thing, but I actually have a soft spot for.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm not.
I think that's what he's referencing, but
it's okay. I'm taking it and making it something else now because I just can. But no, I probably should. I'm just not. I'm not cool, Nikki. Ask Joe. I'm
going to send it to you with a cool video.
Okay.
That just makes it all the better.
Okay.
Okay.
She's trying to make me cool, Joe. It's like I got nothing.
I don't know what to tell you.
No, I'm not, because this thing came out like 20 years ago or something. Every time I hear that, it starts playing in my head again, which is not a bad thing, but it's a really weird song.
So I wasn't cool 20 years ago either, so I'll be cool at some point in time.
Well, and we as indie creators define what's cool, right? Like, it takes a lot to put yourself out there and take that piece of you and make it part of the collective rather than just sitting back and doing nothing. I always think that, like, anybody who's published anything or created anything and put it on display is,
I've never heard it. I'm sorry.
A star.
Anita, I'm not
really. Oh, you never heard the song?
I'm hearing the song.
If he's ever heard the ABBA song.
No, I get the feeling I'm going to be listening to this ABBA song very shortly. I get this feeling now. But anyways.
Incoming download. No, that's great. Speaking of fun and being able just to take a break and do silly stuff, sometimes we need to do that.
Yeah.
So refill those reserves.
I mean, to your point before I derailed it, yeah, I that's why I do what I do. I think that it's super important to acknowledge that you've created something and you've done something. I just feel like that stifles 90% of the population. And so I feel like you being able to do that. Now, that being said, you can do things badly. And I'm not saying everything everybody's ever created is beautiful and perfect and wonderful, but it's beautiful in its own way. And the one thing about it is that, believe it or not, even for the horrible films that nobody will ever see that I've made, I have had people enjoy them, which is weird to me because I don't enjoy them. And so, which is something that I had to learn. I had to learn, you know what? You should enjoy it because you made something. You spent the time to put it together. You got everybody together. You did it when there was no money to do it with. You did it when you couldn't find a place to do it at, and you made it work and you figured it out. And yeah, you might have not executed it the way your vision might have saw it being, but I don't think even if I had $5 million and Brad Pitt and not to say that Brad Pitt's the pinnacle, but I'm just giving that because that's a broad example. But if I had those things, would I have still succeeded? Would it have been better? Probably not. It would have probably been the same thing it was, because I wasn't ready for what it was, but I was ready to do it. And I was ready to stop at talking about doing it and do it. I had spent 6 months before that talking about, I want to really do this. I really want to do this. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I started putting that plan in motion. And once I put it in motion, it didn't stop. It had to get done. And it led to a lot of great things for me. And the least of which was making a movie. That was the bottom of the list, So all of that, I tend to look back at that and go, I appreciate how much that really gave to me and how much that changed my life and who I am. And so I think creating something is super important. If you want to do it, you got to go do it. You got to figure out how to do it. Don't let anything stop you from doing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it a step farther, because that's the first. It's ultimately the first and last step, but there's like a nuanced layer to this. Yeah. I had again one of these big epiphanies this year, and one of the big epiphanies I had was I realized that no matter what story I'm telling my story. And the reason that's important to understand is, I think one of the real fine lines with creative people is we don't always understand why we care about why we do what we do and what we care about. And the reason why that's important is when you understand what you care about, you can make better connections with your art. Whether or not it's good or not is irrelevant. Like that's a matter of opinion. But you'll be able to better reach out to people that will actually feel what you feel and see what you see. Because again, something we've said at the beginning, we're not that different. And the idea and what we're looking for in this life is connection. We're doing the same thing. We are telling a story, however we're doing, whether it's film, comic, video game, novel, music, it doesn't matter. The best, when we are at our absolute best, I truly believe this, that the best artists out there, the ones with the most success, also on some level are the most true to themselves. And that's a big part of the journey too, is understanding who we are in that moment and why we care about this so much, because then we can truly connect to the people we want to reach out to.
Yeah, you put out that it's like a beacon, right?
Yeah, but you need to focus your. Think of it like a light, like applying a light from a laser, and the tighter focus, the bigger, the brighter the laser is. Right? It's the same thing. When we create a work of art, we're firing that laser. But it's not always necessarily as strong or as potent. And some of that's technique. But I think the real thing is understanding ourselves. And the more we understand that, the better the art becomes in how we express that to others. That's a theory of mine.
I'll add the physics to that, which is when a laser is finding its target, it gets thinner and smaller and faster, and it pinpoints exactly where it's going to go. You have more control over that accuracy when you have figured out the frequency in which to point it right at the right target at the right time, and it almost becomes translucent in a lot of respects. That a good laser beam, people can't see. It hits its target, and it hits it quicker than anything you could have ever clocked or imagined it would do. Right? You think you have it. You think you have the timing down, and then all of a sudden it hits it really fast, and all of a sudden you're off, right? And so I think that's you gain that. You have to practice everything you do and everything you do, and the more words you write, the better you're going to write. The more things you film, the better you're going to be at filming. The more things you edit, the better you're going to be at editing. And it's a practice, and then you start to find your niche, you start to find your pinpoints, and you hit them. And it's those who stay with it that do that. You know, I hate this term that it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, but it's fairly true. You know, I mean, in a lot of respects.
Because it's when we pick up on this. That's why it's one of the hardest lessons. But once you figure it out, so folks, if you want to beat us, that's how you do it. Like, figure out what you care about and don't be afraid to show it. Like, that's.
And just know that
simple.
And just know that Josh and I have a 1,000 episode head start on all of you. So
that's right.
That's right. I also wanted to go. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go.
There's a weird lag for me. No, we need to celebrate that 1,000 episode.
Yeah.
Milestone. Like, it's you're high up that mountain, you know. With that alone,
it's funny because YouTube keeps reminding me that YouTube YouTube sends me a video every time I get closer and closer. They send me a message, and they say, you know, you're in this percentile of creators. You're in this percentile of creators, and like if you get to 1,000, you're going to be like a 9% of all people who are on YouTube only get to that point. And it's like I'm thinking about there's billions and billions of people doing YouTube videos. I find that weird and unusual, but I'll take it. If that's what they're telling me.
People will watch a video, but they don't necessarily subscribe, right?
Well, oftentimes what happens is people get their, you know, something happens to their channel or something happens to them, or they stop because they get discouraged and you know, they only like, if you notice, like there's certain creators that have millions of followers that haven't put out a video in 4 years, and that's because they've moved on to TikTok or they've moved on to Twitch or whatever, and they don't put as much attention into YouTube anymore. So that's kind of I feel it's like more of an attrition thing than anything, but I'll take it. Look, I don't care. I really don't care about being in the 9th percentile. I'm just happy to do what I do and keep doing it. That's how I feel.
And then you always win. Right.
Yeah. Well, okay, and I speak as the guy that has won an award, has been nominated for a few awards. That doesn't mean as much as you think it does. And I'm not saying that to disrespect your reward. I say that because what you eventually realize with this is you're doing this because there's something in you that wants to do it, and all that other stuff, all that is at best it's validation. At worst, it's a byproduct. Don't try to keep that in mind. And try to keep that very much in mind whenever, especially when it comes to making money, right? Especially when it comes to how you treat other people, right? Because those are the only two things that really matter. How you treat others, how much money you're making doing what you love. The rest of this does not count, right? It sounds really simple. It sounds really maybe capitalistic. I don't care. That's all I care about. Yeah. Hey, cheers to Mr. JD.
Hey, JD. What do you say? Still working, but
dropping in to raise a glass.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
JD, is it okay if I do Wellington? Is it okay on your show, Nikki, even though it's my network, if I drop a shameless plug real quickly?
Please, by all means.
Because we're talking about the topic. So on this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be celebrating the actual 1,000th episode broadcasting on Going Now's network. I'm reopening Joe's Bar for one night only from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to, and Mr. JD Estrada is going to be a guest there. We're going to just sit and reflect with some of the people who've who, because I didn't do this alone. So I wanted to honor the people who have done a lot for me and this network. And so I'm bringing them on to talk a lot about that. So that's going to happen between 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern on Friday. That will be the actual 1000th episode that we broadcast. So.
This coming Friday, right?
This coming Friday.
Not some other distant Friday.
No. We're very close. Yeah. This is episode 992. This is broadcast number 992. Just to give you an idea of how close we are.
Well, I will pop into the comments and have some sort of drink.
Please.
To have with you.
I will be working a Canadian football game up until right when you start, or right just before you start. I will definitely chase a glass, if nothing else, to get that out of my system.
Well, Canadian football's in season right now.
They're near the end. They only got like 6 more weeks left, right? And I'm not going to talk about my standings, but where I'm at. But our team isn't exactly the greatest in the world, so this is my last day working at the arena, like that arena. So I'm actually kind of happy. I'm kind of ecstatic about that, to be very honest with you. So I'm gonna try to get out there as early as I can to.
Like, I gotta go to Joe's bar.
That's pretty much it. I'm going to go get a drink. I don't care. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for allowing me to do that. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. My boss would get mad at me if if I didn't. So, Josh, I was hoping that you could maybe talk a little bit about your experience with your agent and the traditional publishing, because you were talking about reaching that award pinnacle, and sort of traditional publishing for a lot of people is that, pinnacle as well. So
okay, so
I know it's kind of a can of worms, but
I accidentally got traditionally published. Like, seriously,
I tumbled down a hill into a printing press.
That is no. I'm legit. Like, okay, so here's the story.
Did the mangler come find you?
No. Hear the story. Hear the story. This, because it's wild. It's legitimately wild. This was 2014. I survived my Erickson experience. I started to get back into writing again. And I wanted to publish a poetry collection, and I ended up writing a longer poem about a slave boy that's like in this compound watching for weather, where his family are working for dragons. It was a fascinating little chapter. I liked it, and I wanted to know what happened next. So what ended up happening was he kills his dragon master in chapter 2 and escapes. I can't end it there, so I read chapter 3, which is his first night living alone in the wilderness, dealing with the fact that he murdered somebody. And then that's still some of my favorite writing I've ever done to this day. Then chapter 4, he goes out into the new world. You see this new world that's out there. And 4 became 5, 5 became 6. And I realized that this was my poetry collection. Here's fate. Here's some weird fate in a nutshell. Yeah. Okay, no. Here's fate in a nutshell. I go to a comic shop I still go to this day. And while I'm going there, I see art credits from somebody I used to work at a Kinko's with in the shop. I find her. No, this is a wild story. I find her. I asked her if she should do some illustrations inside the book. Okay. She said yes. Yes, got a cover. And legitimately speaking, I'm going to say this right now. Florence Chan is one of the most incredible professional people I've ever worked with. Her work is amazing. You should all check her out. Phenomenal. Do the book. My plan, all my plan was I was going to get published on Smashwords. And then I was going to print physical copies for conventions. That was the big plan I had. So someone I interviewed a few years ago bought a book, and she goes to me, "Hey, this is really cool. What are you going to do with it?" And I just told you. She goes, "Oh, that's really cool. I just signed a deal with Ingram Spark. I'm starting a publishing house. So I'll publish your book." And that is how you accidentally get traditionally published. So that's legitimately speaking, it fell into my lap. When I say that my career is an accident, I am not joking, even a little bit.
But look at all the work that you put into your podcast, though, Josh. It's not like it came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, no. But
you interviewed.
But the thing is, I didn't this was before the podcast even. This was just me interviewing people on my website. I've been interviewing people for 20 years. But
Okay.
the podcast is still not even half of that cycle. But the thing is, what happened was, right, I have learned to embrace my accents. So even now, getting to this agent, you want to know how I actually met this agent? I met her at a ghost story party they do at When Words Collide. Joe will know what I'm talking about when about Fortnite, right? So he knows what I'm talking about, right? So the agent happened to be there, and I was just my charming, loquacious self. And the next thing I know is I've agreed to submit a manuscript to her. Like, that's literally what happened. This is not like something I'm magically planning. This is just things that happen. And even so, there's no guarantees. There's nothing like nailed down. She's reading the first part. If she likes it, she'll ask for the rest of the manuscript. If she likes that, we'll talk business. Maybe not. Who knows? I don't have this, like, there's no master plan here. As far as my awards go, all of my awards have been as an indie, not traditional. Alice Zero, which is one of my more recent releases, that literally got nominated on its own, and so did my podcast. And they're me. There's no other brand. It's me, which goes to show you that if there's a lesson anybody here can learn from me, it's this: do your things. Good things happen. Period. End of story. Because nothing that good that I have done has been by plan. Everything I've done has been the result of me doing things.
Yeah.
Everything. And she's like, I feel, see, like, and that you need to hear. Like, I just did shit and things happened. And I was smart enough and wise enough to recognize those good things when they came. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I
it
push.
is a matter of right place, right time, who you know.
Oh,
not what you know, who you know.
Networking is huge. Like, honestly, okay, here's the thing. Joe, Mr. Compton might be the only person I know that's a better networker than I am. Right? He knows people. But the thing is, if people know you're out there, people will look for you to help you. And this is the thing. Like, we both have established platforms that made us recognizable. What Joe's quietly doing for all of you, whether you all realize this or not, is he's given a platform for you to put yourselves out there because he wants to happen to you what's happened to me and what's happened to him, because you're all great. And you got to but again, you don't always realize that, but you are. But the thing is, that's why you're doing this. That's why we're doing these shows. It's so you can get your story out there, because that matters, because you matter.
There's so much crap in the world. There's so much garbage. And to find something that is beautiful, like that shines like a diamond, I'm just lucky that I come across so much of that. And so, yeah, it's my personal mission to make sure that it shines, because that's just how it should be. I mean, people are looking for, people complain about this or that, or say that this isn't going well, or I can't find, these movies stink. Why are we watching these? Why are we reading these books? I've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces of art on this network you can check out that you would just be like, wow, I can't believe that came from somebody's brain and somebody's talent. And it's just amazing. And so, we need more good. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and there's that speaks to that importance of tribe too, like finding your people who will be supportive rather than tearing you down.
That's important. But the last thing I want to say about what I said earlier, right? The other thing is, I was ready for those opportunities to take advantage of them. Your job, this is the job of everybody that's listening to this, watching this. If you are serious about this in any way, shape, or form, put yourself in the best position you can in the moment to be ready. That's your job. That's it. Everything else does not matter. It doesn't even have to be good. I'm going to say something like it really doesn't. Because here's a little. No. The sound. No. I literally I just put a post on. Joe might have seen it. I don't know if he has. I actually put drawings from 3 years ago to now on my Facebook
I haven't
page.
seen this. I've seen some drawing posts, but I don't think I've seen that one.
No. I literally did it. Like the very first one, the earliest drawings I could find, to like one of the latest drawing I could find. You could see the growth. I do draw. I'm not even going to pretend I'm good at it, but it doesn't. But see, I had an epiphany one day. It was like, so what if I suck? It doesn't matter. What matters is that I put myself out there. That's the real secret, right? I know this sounds like corny, crazy, but I am confident enough in myself that if I can put myself out there, that good will happen. It may not happen every single day, but it will. It doesn't matter that I'm good or I am not good. That's actually irrelevant by and large. I mean, I say that because that's good. Is Stephen King said this best. The word good is up for grabs. The real word for everybody is, are you ready for it? That's your real job. If you're ready, it'll come. There's Stephen King, ladies and gentlemen. Right?
Obligatory Stephen
King. Yeah. But I say this, like, that's the thing. This is more about being ready than being good. Because there's lots of even great people out there that don't get those chances.
Yeah.
But it's but sometimes it's are they ready for those chances? And that's an honest question. Are you ready? Right? Yeah, and it's the paradox. You got to put yourself in the best position you know how to do it without shooting yourself in the foot. And that might be one of the hardest things to do because we all make mistakes, right? You just can't let them stay down.
Yeah. Look at that. This is a therapy session.
Mm-hmm. Experience. No, it's experience, right?
Yeah.
That's it. If you show up and are just ready to do your thing, honestly, that will carry you so far. So far. And that's why, I mean, yes, finding the right people, but that's how you find the right people.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, getting back to that frequency and it's very important. One of the things that I've been sort of humbled with is the amount of people in my life who will show up in small ways, that help keep me going. I had a friend, I should give a shout out. I don't know if he's watching or not, but Nick Bichelle, and he got a bunch of copies of my book and brought it with him to Gen Con this last August and just gave them out to people that he thought would enjoy them. And he was like, when he talked to me about it, he was like, I just love that you've created something and I want to support that, and
should have had him charge $10 a book, but otherwise,
well, but there are.
He gave him out like an exchange.
I'm kidding.
Thing, but it was so sweet. It was so sweet.
That's nice. No, that's very nice.
So, and that reminds me too. Like, I've got my book right here. One of the things that kind of came up and has stuck in my head that maybe other people need to see too is one of the motivating factors for me in writing this was I was going through a very difficult period of time in my life, and it made me it gave me something to focus on every day, that I could when I couldn't control some of the outside forces going on, I could control what I put down on paper. I could control, making the lemonade out of a situation that.
I can tell you a story about my first book if you want to hear it.
Sure.
The book that Josh has in his possession. I don't know if he still has it, but I gave it to him the first time we met.
No. I have it. I still got it, buddy.
For me, so that's a book I wrote that I was actually almost traditionally published with. And I've told the story a million times, so most people here know the story, but I got blacklisted. I made a mistake, and then they made a mistake, and it kind of compounded itself, and then I got blacklisted and all that. So I won't tell that story again. I won't go through that story because I told it 5,000 times on this network. You can go find anytime I'm on a show, I tell that story. But the thing about it is so I had just shelved it and trashed it, right? I just said, I'm done with that. Then I decided to turn my attention to filmmaking, and I made some films. And then I went to Hollywood and worked in Hollywood because that was my dream. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the movie business. And it took me to 5 different countries, and I did a lot of productions, and I learned a lot about production and things like that. But it was a miserable job. And I learned how horrible a place Hollywood really is. And so that killed all of my creativity. I decided I was just going to get I was just going to get a 9-to-5 job. I was just going to be a person,
Be a person.
Right. And then I met my now ex-wife, my wife, and my wife at the time. And, and we had taken a trip to Colorado where I had done most of my film stuff just to meet some friends for a wedding. And all of my creative friends were my real friends there. So naturally, when we started to hang out, we started talking about movie experiences and experiences on my set. And then we were looking at, like, my friend and I were looking at these telephone wires, and he goes, "What do you think about when you see that?" I say, "I think about a shot where you're walking across the telephone wire, and I was setting up a scene right there." And my ex-wife had never seen that before. She'd never seen me be creative and, like, just of the spirit. And she's like, that's the guy that I want to marry. That's the guy I want to know, And so I had lost all that spirit, right? And that renewed my spirit a little bit. And so I was looking around going, what can I do? What is there out there that I can do right away? And, KDP was just, or Kindle was just starting to happen. Amazon was just starting to happen at that point. And it was, I said, well, I have this book that I almost got published. It's mine. Nobody has rights to it anymore. My agent had passed away, so she didn't have the rights anymore. So I can just go out there and I can put it out there, right? You try to put it out there. And so we worked on it together, my ex-wife and I, and she actually fixed a really big plot hole in there. So I'm always grateful for that. And I put it out there. And that's how this whole thing started. That's how I got into meeting people, how I got into Go Indie Now. And so all stemming from me needing to be creative again. And that's how.
All from some power line shot.
From people noticing that
is wild.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's how it all became. And that's the book that is in Josh's possession. So.
We never know where our muse is going to come from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, ideas can come from strangest of places. So.
Yeah. But yeah. I know at that point, I let Hollywood get the better of me, and I let what happened get the better of me. And I learned a valuable lesson about that, which is, what, if you're creative, stay creative, be creative, and don't let anybody tell you it sucks or whatever. Just keep doing it, So
yeah,
what?
We need that light in this dark world, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll give you a fun, like, people telling me it sucked, but kind of worked out in my favor kind of way. So I went to San Diego Comic-Con, right? I went to San Diego Comic-Con, and I was just drawing while I was there, but in between rounds of going to the actual Comic-Con as a professional. I was a professional at San Diego Comic-Con. That's awesome. But anyways, that to me is just, that's really cool. That's a cool feeling. But I was posting, like, pictures, like illustrations. So one person's like, "How long have you been drawing?" I go, 3 years, like almost 3 years. And I get to, like, this horrible browbeating about how I can't draw and all of that stuff, right?
What?
Right. Yeah. Oh, no. Wait, no. I haven't gotten to the best part yet. Here's the best part. Okay. Within the hour of getting that Facebook comment, within the hour, I got my first actual commission as an illustrator.
It's like the universe was like, don't listen to this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, But that's the thing. Like again, I have become a cold, calculating asshole. If someone really despises my work and thinks I suck, I mean, and they've gone to the lengths to say how bad I suck. I now use that. I try to figure out how to use them to market my stuff for me. Because the way I look at it is they're already doing all the work for me, right? Talking about my stuff loudly. I'll see if I can figure out how to make money out of it. I'm cynical.
One-star reviews, right? I always go. I look at the 5 stars and the 1 stars, and then I'll go through the rest. But like that's my go-to, and I'm like, oh, you hated this in this book. I'm getting it for that reason, you know.
Yeah, but the thing is that's the thing is like I've learned this: the people that despised your work, that thinks they suck, are sometimes your biggest fans without realizing it. I've cultivated the idea of, you know what, if someone despises my work enough to go write a horror review about it, I got them. So now I'm going to keep doing the same horrible substitute. They'll talk even more and more and more about it that way. And again, this sounds terrible, but I've learned this. Like this, like as you get truer and truer to who you are, you're going to hit people in a positive way, but you're also going to hit people in a negative way.
Yeah.
So, right. So, and that's just the nature of how the world is. So don't fight that, embrace it. If it's something that's true to you, don't do it just for the sake of doing it. But if you're being true to yourself, right, it will, you know what, you will find the right people for you. That's how I see it. And the people that are screaming the loudest about how bad you are might actually be the people that help you find it. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Howard Stern's audience.
They would watch his show twice as long as people that liked him.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true, right? So I've learned, I've embraced, I've hit that. Now that's when I know I make it. When someone tells me I suck, I've done it. Yes.
Josh's weird, brand but hatred.
I mean, yes.
Good. I welcome your hatred.
I will use it for my purposes.
It gets back to that importance of having that inner light, because then you're shining and you like, who said that? What? I don't even care. Right? I can't see you because I'm so bright, you know. And of course that can go into the negative if you get too much in the, you know, over having.
Again, it has to be. This is the caveat. The caveat I said here. You don't stir the pot for the sake of stirring the pot, right? Because at some point it has to be real. So if it's about you taking a stand on something you believe in, go all in. Who cares, right? Don't do it just for the sake of doing it. But I mean, if it's something that you feel legit about, then you should, and you shouldn't worry about it at all. And it won't.
I feel like you can never go too wrong if you follow your heart truly, like not with all the gunk on top of it. Truly, right?
Yeah.
And that is hard in this black, dark, icky world that we live in. Stuff seeps in, you know, but to be able to shine and burn that off and still put your stuff up there.
Like I said, I just keep in mind that the person that told me sent me a drawing book I also literally got paid to do a commission later on. So
that is a beautiful lesson. And quick. Oh, that must have been so satisfying, though, at the same time.
Both of them actually were.
The outside validation, but sometimes some gravy on your potatoes tastes good. You know?
It's probably I figure it's probably one of my last lessons is you got to learn how to be tough in the way that people are going to hate your stuff. That's fine. They can hate it. It's okay. That's not a sign that your work is bad. Here's the sign that your work is bad. If no one says a word, or it's good, then I'm a little worried. What do you mean it's good?
I always hate it
because I don't.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's feedback, and be like, that's worse than I love or hate. Like at least.
Yeah. Damned with the faintest of praise. That's literally what that is. Damned with the faintest of praise.
You made a thing, Pat. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all
right.
Thanks.
Oh, go ahead. We are at our end, right? Until 7. So why don't you start where people can find you? We'll start with Joe because Josh was the last one talking.
Here. You're
Here
here.
on Indie. Yeah, everybody knows where
Congratulations,
you
you
can find
found me.
And Josh, where can people find your podcast and your
So
book?
you can find my podcast is called Just Joshing. You can find it everywhere. The Twitch era is just about finished. At this point, I'm just doing all the guests I didn't get a chance to do in the 1,000. And once they're all done, it's a full-fledged travel show. It will be regularly airing. It's on 2 places. My Patreon page, patreon.com/justjoshing podcast. $5 a month gives you access to all the shows well before anybody else sees them, right? And you get to see me go through all the growing pains of doing a brand new show right there and then.
Ooh,
But
that's
my
worth
YouTube
the
channel,
admission right there.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then afterwards, I have my YouTube channel is Joshua Pantalleresco, and that just look up my name. See my name? You I promise you, I'm the only one you'll find. And
There are
once-
advantages to these difficult last names, right?
yeah, absolutely, and that's one of them, right? So you will find me. You will find all my archive shows on my YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. The travel show has started showing episodes there. That's that. The other thing I want to promote is there's a show premiering tonight. It's called Healing Hands. It's hosted by Basking. I wrote, produced, and directed. It's an educational massage therapy show. And that actually, the first episode drops tonight. The YouTube channel is Healing Hands YYC. So take a look.
This is Daniel Myers, everybody. Say hello to Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
You're doing well. All right. Well, thank you for.
Where can people find you, Nikki DeKeuster? You need to start telling people that.
Well, you can find me at nikkidekeuster.com. And I have a Facebook group called Nikki DeKeuster Storyteller. And that's where I usually update stuff. I'm on Twitter, but not all that much. So, what you were saying, you got to kind of pick a platform and go with it. So I have written 2 books and I'm working on a 3rd right now. And it's horror. That's what I've focused on, horror, but with like a focus on love and like the dark side of love, as it were. And then and here I'm basking in the evergreen every month. So
awesome.
All right. Well, I was going to say thank you, and maybe we can talk about maybe switching up that format behind the scenes to be like positive.
There you go.
I think it'd be interesting.
It can be done.
Like, give me the things that you love about being an author, or an indie or whatever. Because we could use that, lift everybody up and give hope and light. So, all right. Thank you for joining us and for having this be this first. And thank you, audience, as well, and everybody who joined in the chats. And remember, it's always time to go indie now.